Next in our program of the Open House by Paptic is a keynote speech by Mr. Emmanuel Druon. Emmanuel Druon is the manager of the French company Paptic. Paptic is a company manufacturing zero-waste envelopes and pouches following the industrial principle of Ecolonomy. Ecolonomy is also the title of the book that Mr. Druon is also authoring, a very recommended read for all of you. Next, the floor is yours, Mr. Emmanuel Druon. We are proud to have you as our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much for welcoming me. I'm very happy to meet you this afternoon on this meeting around Paptic. And yes, we are going to talk about ecolonomy. Ecolonomy is a new word that suggests that it is probably more economical to work ecologically. Ecologically working is more economical. You can also call it eco-economy. And before I start this presentation, I would like you to watch a little video. Can you launch that for me?
Welcome to a revolutionary new product which will change the way you communicate. Behind its ultra-thin, elegant design is a powerful tool that you can hold in the palm of your hand. Its intuitive functions make it simple to use. You can swap documents, files, photos and videos with maximum security and with no limits as to the size. Eliminated all network connections. Bugs and breakdowns are a thing of the past. And the name of this astounding new product is Envelope. For the user, uploading and securing documents to Envelope is a child's play. A simple optical scan allows you to check that all your documents are attached before literally sealing them. Our closing device means that your data is protected throughout the transfer. Security issues are a thing of the past thanks to the natural opacity of the layer of cellulose and carbon which make up the surface of Envelope. Paper is the name of this innovative new material. A personal optical detector allows the recipient to identify himself. This remarkable innovation means no more passwords and codes and is made possible by the translucent screen. Offering you an unprecedented vision of the future, we have called it Window. The variable capacity of Envelope means that transferring large, unusual formats, even 3D creations, is no longer a problem. Envelope can hold several gigaoctets. And yet, size and power aren't the same. Envelope is portable and compact. Even though it weighs less than a microchip, Envelope is highly resistant. Drop it, walk on it, it won't break. Envelope has up to several hours of battery life, and its unplugged performance is only enhanced by its lack of batteries. And if you want to recuperate and recycle Envelope, we have an application for that, despite its unplanned obsolescence. With a simple swipe, you can move Envelope to trash. Envelope is 100% recyclable and contains no harmful products. Join the millions of people who have already converted to Envelope, who work, live and have fun in a new way. Welcome to the era of Envelope. Welcome to the future.
Thank you very much for listening to our humoristic small presentation of what brings us to Envelope today. Ecolonomy is a necessity if we want to reach the right level of CO2 in the atmosphere, and if we want to respect the major demands that are made by our governments around the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The scientists that are grouped together in the IPCC group. The IPCC group is producing regularly documents that are telling us what is the way to follow if we want to reach a better level of CO2 in the atmosphere. So, as a Earth citizen, I cannot change by myself the whole elements that have to be changed in order to modify the climate. But if we consider the fact that we are operating on our companies on an everyday basis with our colleagues, the company can be small or can be huge. If we are cooperating together and focusing on reducing the CO2 emissions, then step by step, person plus 1% plus 1% makes people that makes the change we need to reach. And the reason why I'm speaking today on this Paptic open house is because I have some very close link to Finland and to the team that has developed Paptic. Those guys together and women together have made possible to replace plastic. In terms of carbon footprint, Paptic is a good product, much better than plastic is. 25 years ago, I was on charge of Pocheco. I was young at the time. I was 32 years old, and I had to deal with several problems: financial problems, human problems, and also we were told by our customers and by many people that producing envelopes in paper was one of the causes for deforestation. Nobody wants to work in a company that is destroying environment to develop its own business. If you think about it, none of us was born with the idea that in his own life, his focus would be to destroy environment. Nobody wants that. Maybe Trump, but he's only the one. So if we are not completely crazy, we don't want to destroy the environment. And by the fact, 25 years ago, when I was dealing with Pocheco problems, I discovered that we were not doing our business in the good way. So we made the decision with my colleagues to change everything. And we changed everything. The first question was, where can we start? And I was lucky enough to meet some people in Finland that showed me the way they were processing paper making. They invited me and we went into the forest together. I learned everything from them. How can you deal with a sustainable forest? How can you deal with trees and paper without destroying your environment? They were thinking about solutions for a long time, making not a lot of noise about their discovery. But as a fact, they were clearly engaged in a sustainable system. Every tree cut, 10 trees were replanted in the respect of the biodiversity. They were also checking precisely what was the effect of their activity on the soil. And they wanted to leave a coverage, a natural coverage on the soil of the forest in order to leave the biodiversity in peace. Then we saw that the whole factory was moved by biomass. So they were not utilizing a nuclear plant, for example, of fossil fuel, only biomass. And then they were describing the fact that they were trying to be utilizing the less water possible. It was very interesting to see sobriety in the water use. And then I discovered that they had a long process of development to decrease the number of elements that they put in their paper in order to make possible that at the end, your envelope would be fully recyclable, of course, but also completely biodegradable without leaving on the environment any chemical that might be a problem for biodiversity. After having taken time with them, and I realized that it was probably possible to change the way we do our entrepreneurship. You can produce without destroying environment. It's just a question of choice, and it's a question of research. So I came back to my factory in France, north of France, at Pocheco, and I spoke to my people, and I had this conversation with them. Could we do something together to produce our envelopes without destroying environment? Look at them, what they are able to do and to process in Finland. Shall we try to do the same? Shall we try to reach the same level? I have to recognize that at the time, I was lucky enough to spend time with Mr. Kari Laukarinen. And Kari has become a friend since, was completely convinced that we might work together to develop good products. And that's what we did. So back to France, I choose to do the work with my guys, and we changed everything. We changed the machine, all the machinery were changed, the way we get our energy, the raw material we utilize, and the way we come together to work. How are we going to reduce our impact on environment at every move? But in the same time, it's very clear that we were in competition against other very good producers, and so we had to keep a low price for our envelopes. If not, we lose the market. So we found 4 keys to what we call now ecolonomy or eco economy. 4 principal keys to get involved into the change you want to make. To make it easy, to make it a collective move, we have 4 keys. The first one is very accessible. It's the question of life cycle assessment, and it's also the question of carbon footprint assessment. It gives the company, your company, my company, a roadmap to decrease CO2 emissions. It's a method, it's very simple, and it can be applied by every people in the company. Permit me to give you one example. Back to Pocheco, in the 90s, we were using solvent inks that were making beautiful colors, but it was based on solvent. And my people in the facility were constantly in contact with those solvents. So that you can imagine that breathing solvent every day of your life, of your working life, may occur of some consequences on your health. So we made a decision. Let's try to find an ink that is solvent-free and based on water. Does that exist? We don't know. Shall we try to find? Yes, definitely. Because we wanted, firstly, we wanted to reduce the impact of our activity on our health. So, if we change ink from solvent to water-based, that may be very interesting. Secondly, if it has a good impact on our health, you can believe that easily this new product will also have a good impact on ecology, because us human beings are made of 60% of water. So when it's good for our health, generally speaking, it's good for environment. And then the third point was that with those new inks, we didn't want to spend more money because we had to keep online in the competition. We were quite a long time to make our research, and at the end, we found the solution with that new ink. It was a little bit more expensive. And my colleague told me, Emmanuel is my name, Emmanuel, this ink is going to be much more expensive if you buy it. And I said to my colleague, please excuse me, what do you mean? He said, I mean, this is going to be more expensive. And I repeat, excuse me, what do you mean? And he said, more expensive, Emmanuel. It's going to be more expensive. And so I said, what do you mean? And he said, more expensive. So I said to him, more expensive for my health? Will it be more expensive for my health to go from a ink with solvent to a solvent-free water-based ink? Is it more expensive for my human health? I said, okay, for your health, it is better. And then I said, okay, so please tell me, is it more expensive for ecology of our environment? And he said, no, of course. This water-based ink is less expensive for our environment. So I said, okay, that's interesting. We have 2 points on 3. And then he said, yes, but financially speaking, it is going to be more expensive. And I said, okay, we have 2 good points and 1 problem. Let's go. And let's go for that new water-based ink. And guess what? After a year, we also discovered that it was 25% less expensive to get that water-based ink, just because we were able to reuse the product after production. So we reduced the waste constantly, so that at the end, it was an economy, a financial economy of 25%. That is Ecolonomy. That is an example of Ecolonomy. So if I am back now to the 4 keys, and if we can get back to the PowerPoint. Thank you very much. Thank you, Valtteri and his team. The second key to reduce your impact on the environment and on human health when you are processing is, strangely, to study the way your employees are commuting to their office. If you have a tertiary activity, a study proves that while commuting together to office allows us to cut half of the CO2 emissions of this activity. It is clear that the aim of this commute study is, first of all, to analyze how the colleagues are commuting from home to work and from work to home. Secondly, it assesses how easy it is to come to the company thanks to bike, public transportation, carpooling, and so on. And third, the commute study develops solutions with the colleagues to give up the car step by step. By the way, I know very well that in Scandinavian countries, what I'm saying here is natural. But let's say that in Europe, some countries are very far from commuting easily by bike. For example, in my country, in France, we have more than 1 million kilometers of motorways for cars and less than 10,000 kilometers of roads for bikes. So let's say we are very late and we have to adjust ourselves quite easily and fastly if we want to reduce strongly our impact on environment with CO2 emissions. The third key, we have called it, and I'm sorry because I'm not reading my PowerPoint and I'm saying things in a little with a little difference with what you read here, but I will at the end you will understand what I'm saying. The third point is the corridor, what we've called corridor of biodiversity. The idea is to bring back biodiversity into the company and to rewild Europe. Once again, if we are talking about Scandinavian countries, we are very late. Us in the rest of Europe, if we compare us to what Scandinavians are doing. Thank you. But we have to introduce the living part of the world into the act of undertaking. That is our aim. That's why we are trying to propose to other companies, industrial companies or communities, we are trying to propose to develop some corridors of biodiversity. In a few words, it is just to leave biodiversity by itself and just create some space for it without any human intervention. This project is very interesting for another element. It is a federative project to help the colleagues to enter into transition, because ecolonomy is nothing more than the transition economy. We have to change every of our habits has to be changed if we want to reach the right level of CO2 and to reduce the impact of our activities on the environment, which is a question of survey. We have to survive now, and that will help. And then, yes, indeed, we need to mobilize. We need a collective mobilization. We need to be numerous, to go in the right direction together, to reduce and change our habits if we want to reach the right level on time. Climate is changing fast. Weather is eating too much. The consequences are multiple, and we can see it today. What we say at Pocheco with Ecolonomy is, it is not useful to be frightened. It is more useful to get together in a cooperation and try to make the change together on an everyday basis. So our solutions are very simple so that everybody can get involved into the solution and try to make the change he wants for the planet every day. Because when we enter our company every morning, we still are citizens. And this citizenship now is an obligation to reduce the impact of our activities. It means that certainly we will face some major changes. Some companies will disappear, some other will completely change their activities. And let's take one example. Plastic should be removed from our habits. Paptic is a solution for the future, and the future is now. Let's get involved into the solutions that we discover and that allows us to produce without destroying the environment. That is, with my colleagues, our aim. And that is the way we would like to convince more and more people to get involved into those new solutions. So that's the reason why we have written some books. We are trying to convince other companies. And at the moment, we are quite lucky with my team to work for more than 100 companies in the world and with more than 30,000 employees all over the world. We are trying to propose to them some new way of working. We are changing some habits together, respecting the three elements of ecolonomy: reducing the impact on human health, reducing the environmental impact and the prevention of pollution, and increasing the productivity. Some companies like Danone Waters in the world, we have been working with their employees all over the world, in Indonesia, in China, in Argentina, Mexico. We went to Poland, we went to Germany, Spain, Portugal. All over the world, the employees are ready at the time because most of them know that we have a global problem. And we can act with some local solutions. So in some companies, we have changed the processes. And in some other companies, we have changed the raw materials. All of that can be done step by step. There is no need for brutality. At Pocheco, 25 years ago, after we acted with changing inks, we took the decision to change also the way to heat the site. We had to renew the roof. It was an old roof. Raining through it was not surprising. It was happening quite often because in north of France, it rains. And it was a small matter. But we made the decision to reinvest the money we made with the company business into renewing our roof. Instead of choosing dead materials for the roof or for roofing, we choose plants. Plants and also solar panel, so that we can get the water on the roof and drive it to some cuve, to some tanks, and the water in the tanks are then utilized. The water is then utilized to wash our machines with only soap, because we have changed our ink, because the formula we have with our ink is water-based. We can wash the machine with soap, natural soap, and water from the rain, so that we reduce constantly the impact we have on the environment. Then, after the machine has been washed by rain water and natural soap, the whole process goes to a bamboozay. Bamboos, you can have some species can resist to minus 25 degrees. I know that for some of your countries, it's not enough. But for some European countries, minus 25 is the good species of bamboo. So the water is driven to the bamboo roots, and the bamboo roots itself are activating some bacteria that are eating and decomposing the natural ink, water ink that we send. Then the bamboo grows. When the bamboo has grown and done its job, we cut it. We reduce it into small parts, and that becomes a complementary to our heating system. So with that system, a new roof, a bamboo, and a complete circular functioning, we have been able to cut every fossil energy we utilized. No petrol, no gas at Pocheco. No more. Zero. It means that it is for free that we get some heat in the company. We also change the way to deal with our machines on site. And that is one other reason why we don't need some heat from the outside or from fossil fuel. It is because we have redirected the heat that we waste to heat the factory. It is, of course, filtered, but then it goes into the factory and we have our own heat. And the only energy we need now is some energy to run the machines. To run the machines, we get energy from the wind and the sun, which means that wind and sun, they don't send bills. So it's for free. We've got our energy for free. The first investment was to get the solar panel and to buy the wind turbine. So we did. It's an investment, yes, but after 10 years, you're back into your investment. So the return on investment for that part of the process was of 10 years. Here there is a question. Can you invest into a 10-year return on investment? That's the kind of decision that is complicated to make when you are involved into business. And that might be one of the elements that we have to change in our way of doing business. We shall imagine that the future industry has to accept that some return on invest are longer than 3 months. But we also made a few decisions where the return on investment was less of 3 months. This is a question of calibrating the decisions and making the good choices. At Pocheco, we have developed un bureau d'études, j'y arrive jamais. Consulting activity. And let me tell you that my colleagues are more fluent in English than I will be. So please excuse my English. My colleagues are fluent and they are traveling all the world to get involved into change for some other employees in several companies. So, of course, if you want to develop your skills in Ecolonomy, do not hesitate to send us a mail or call us by phone. Every element will be given to you at the end of this presentation. Here they are. You can call Elodie or write a mail to us at pocheco.com or at ouvert.eu. Ouvert is the French word for open, and it is spelled ouvert.eu. Do not hesitate to send us a mail, and my colleagues and I will be more than happy to give you some skills and answers if you like. So here we are, dear Paptic friends, reaching the last part of my presentation. Hope I haven't been too long and that it has not been too difficult to understand my English. I just wanted to focus on giving you some examples of what can be done and what have been done, so that if you pass by north of France, if you get lost and pass by north of France, we are next to the Belgium border. We will, my colleagues and I, be more than happy to show you the result of our Ecolonomies, the one we are making for more than 25 years. Because at the end, this technology has saved us from many, many problems. And if we are nowadays capable to continue our activity, it is because we have constantly reduced the impact of our activity on human health, on ecology, and we have gained some productivity. I'm now ready if you have some questions, and I thank you very much indeed for your kind listening.
Mr. Druon, huge thanks for the great keynote speech. Not only very informative, but also very exciting and energizing. Next in our program, please visit the schedule. Also, our experts are available for one-to-one meetings. They are also online in the chat. See the screen in the bottom part, book meetings with our experts. They are there for you. See you in the next step in our Open House by Paptic event. Thank you.